Y'all watching a movie? Nice. Hey, sweet Maya.
Okay.
Cooking some dinner? Roast.
Roast.
Have you started slicing onions? No.
Brown the meat first.
Huh?
Brown the meat first.
Oh, okay. Are you looking up the recipe? We've shared this recipe on here multiple times before. It's called Soul Warming French Onion Roast. It's on some blog.
All recipes.
Is it on? No. LittleSpiceJar.com. That's what it is. I don't know. It's some blog.
Yeah.
But this is like one of Maya's recipes that he makes, and he does it really well.
It's my favorite roast. Actually, it's really the only roast we ever eat now.
So what do you want with this roast? I've got a couple heads of broccoli I was going to roast that I picked earlier, and I was going to, did you want some cabbage or something? Because I'm about to go out there. Save me a trip. That way I don't have to walk back out later after dark when it's cold. Avoid being cold at all costs. That's pretty much my motto for the next 5 months. Well, we finally came out this morning to Nana's flowers being no longer with us. They're cosmos, so they were frost tender. Nana, now you're just gonna have to come back in the spring and plant some more. It's still really chilly. Today was a chilly day. It's evening now, and I have a couple things I just wanted to show you guys. Check this out. The sweet potato vines are gone. Look at this sea of brown. Isn't that so crazy? What a difference one cold night can make. As you can see, the roses can tolerate a frost, and the alyssum, which sweet alyssum is in the brassica family. So it's a relative of like kale and cauliflower and broccoli and cabbage. Actually, for those of you who are currently doing your seed shopping and garden planning, sweet alyssum, which you can get it in multiple different colors. This is a purple one, and then this is, I think it's called Sweet William, which is just like a really basic white one. Sometimes it's called tall, which just grows a little taller, but it's still white flowers. It's such a great thing to grow. You can grow it very simply by just scattering seeds in your garden plot, and it's a really good kind of mulchy ground cover because it grows around plants, but its roots kind of grow around the root systems of other plants, so it doesn't really compete with them, so it won't stunt plants. Like right now I've got it around like these rose bushes, and it doesn't stunt them, and I've grown it around the base of like cucumbers, you know, different things in the spring that are very shady, because alyssum, being a brassica, will grow through the summer in more shady places, because brassicas have less light needs because they are more adapted to grow during colder months, so therefore with less light. And alyssum is great for pollinators. It blooms even when it's frozen, like these flowers are still fine, and therefore it's very good for pollinators, and you can eat it. It has a very broccoli kind of mustard almost taste. It's like a little spicy. It's not necessarily like something that I eat a lot of, other than to just show people that you can. I guess you could saute it like with like some kale or something for breakfast. It tastes a lot like that, kind of cabbagey. But it's always on my list to grow for companion plants because it's really pretty, it grows really well, it reseeds, so it keeps coming back. I just think it's a really great plant. Look at this. Sad day. The banana trees are no longer with us. One frost does them in. Well, the banana trees got to be probably about 2.5 dads tall. They're, I don't know, maybe 3 dads tall. They're probably about 18 feet up there. They're very tall. And they died with the frost. In the past, I've harvested leaves and frozen them for cooking, but they were so shredded this year from the hurricanes that I didn't even try. I'll probably leave them for another day or two just to look at them, and then we'll come and just chop them down, throw these over to the goats, and they'll grow back here next year. And look at this garden, just freshly dead. Hi, chickens. I guess I should say she's not dead, she's sleeping. These plants, though, they're dead. That's dead. Look at that mush. It's just completely mushy. This mush is like, this is, can you all hear it? It's like squishy mush. This is the equivalent of when you leave a Coke can in your freezer, or a aluminum can, because what happened here is the cell walls of this plant exploded. Isn't that crazy? It couldn't handle the freeze. That's what frost tender plants are. Frost hardy plants are plants that their cell walls can handle the freeze. They can handle it. It looks like these roses did get just a touch of damage from the cold, but the buds are still fine. Isn't that funny? We'll have roses in the middle of the winter. I'm not complaining at all. Hi, chickens. Hi, chickens. Hello, beautiful birds. You little freeloaders. All they're giving me is joy right now, because they're sure not laying any eggs. Most of them are molting. Hey, check out my lovely Greenstalk tower. Strawberries don't mind a freeze. They actually get pretty tasty when it's cold outside. That's so good. I wish I could share this with you. This is actually my first time. This is a dead coleus. We can take that out. This is my first time to have artichokes in my garden, so I didn't know what to expect from this guy, Artie, because I thought artichokes were supposed to be super frost tender, but this plant is not mush, so that's curious to me. Somebody fill me in that has artichoke experience. What's going on here? Is Artie just a survivor? I wasn't expecting to find him so green and lush this evening. The parsley's fine. Definitely doesn't mind a little cold weather, which makes me glad because I like putting fresh parsley in my cooking. Oh, check this out. That is, now that's reseeded from this spring. So this has to be, I guess this is some sort of kale. That's funny. I mean, I don't know, this may be purple broccoli. I'm trying to remember what was here. I know I had a bunch of brassicas in this bed. I don't think I have a kale that looks like this with the purple ribs. I don't know, but that's funny. Well, I'm gonna let it grow for a little while. Volunteer plants make me so happy. It's like free food. Oh, sad, look at this. The dahlias, they're gone. Oh, they were so beautiful, but they'll be back next year. The garden is officially put to bed. The frost was almost a month late for us this year, which is wild. That's the first time that's happened to that extreme since I've been gardening. Usually it's been 2 weeks late before, but I've never been gardening when it was a month late. And it's funny because this is like the first year I didn't have a bunch of fall stuff planted. A lot of times I just take the risk, but I had the high tunnel. And all my fall stuff is in there under cover. This morning I came out as soon as the sun came up, but before it had made it up over the trees to hit the plants. After your first hard freeze, there's kind of this little golden window where it's light and your plants are still frozen and they haven't turned to mush yet. And I came out early this morning. It was really cold and I just brought a cup of coffee and I don't know, so cheesy, but I came in and said goodbye to the garden. And then I watched from my window as the day progressed and everything started to sag and turn brown. And as much as I still have a high tunnel full, I have a garden back there. But as much as I've really learned to embrace the rest, there's still definitely a bittersweet sadness when the gardening year comes to an end. And I wanted to share this with you guys because I know many of you are gardening for the first time this year, you're new to it. The feeling of despair at the end of the garden, it does get better. As you've done it year after year, that feeling of just genuinely like great grief. You still feel that a little bit. Like I still feel a sense of grief at the end of the gardening year, and I actually embrace that feeling. I think it helps me to anticipate more for the next year. I think it helps me dive in with more fervor the next year. But you come to learn how to grieve the end of the garden with the full confidence that spring will be back. And I have a lot of people messaging me right now being like, I'm just so sad that the freeze came and my garden is gone. I'm just so immensely sad. And I just kind of encourage you to like express that in some way. I think I write about my garden a lot at the end of the year. I write about missing it. I share about that, go through a lot of photos. That feeling is actually what, funnily enough, spurred me to film my first garden tour, which is what our YouTube channel grew because of. And that's what started really our YouTube channel's growth, was my first garden tour. And it came from remembering that feeling and wanting to have something to hang on to when it came back around. So yeah, the day after the first freeze, it's a bittersweet day. I recognize that even that bittersweet grief and like the gratitude that comes from the garden and the sadness at the end of it, it fuels the continuation of this being in my life, because that's going to fuel next year. And I know not everybody understands waxing so poetic about the garden, but those of you who do understand, you really understand. Hey, check this out. Y'all remember planting the elephant garlic? I guess it's been a couple weeks ago with Benjamin. Look how it's all coming up. Looking good. Time to go ahead and clear all this stuff out. We'll be moving chickens over here before too long. We'll move this set up so they can help clean that garden space up. Hey y'all. Hello. It's chilly, huh? And here's Doris, making me look like I don't know anything about pigs. Hey little babies. Now look how big they are. They're starting to get their curly hair as it gets colder out. Hey cutie. Hey little cuties. And here's old Doris girl. Still pregnant. Hey big mama. Hey. Hey. I guess get asked about the mangalitas a lot, what they feel. Don't you bite me. Why are you always so nibbling? I get asked about the mangalitas a lot with what they feel like, because people just, they look so fluffy. But they feel like pigs. Their hair is long and curly, but it is still pig hair, and it definitely has that coarseness to it. Look at this girl. Hey. When are you going to have those babies? See, you don't say that to a human mama that's pregnant when they're big and overdue. I don't think Doris is overdue. I actually don't know exactly when she's due, but it's very close by the looks of her. We've been on baby watch with Doris for a little while now, but it's not because we had a due date for her. We weren't sure when she was due. And I've started to get messages from people saying, when will you start to be concerned? And she's still within the window. We didn't breed her, like we didn't watch for her to be open and put her in on a short window and know what her due date was. Some people do that. Some people do artificial insemination, and so they watch for signs and then they do the artificial insemination during a very small window. So they have an exact due date, and we don't. I just have the window that I know she will have the babies by, and we still have a few weeks on that. However, I don't think she's going to last a few more weeks. I'm very surprised that she's lasted this long. I can tell you that when Fanny and Clementine had their first farrowing, they did not look this big. I compared photos. Last night, during the very cold night, Maya came out here and checked on her very often because he was just concerned about the possibility of something being a problem with it being so cold. I'm glad we got through that. It's not going to be as cold tonight. I would really love it if she would have them during the day though. Doris, girl, your belly's hanging low. And here's the peanut gallery coming to watch. They're getting nearly to the age that it'll be time to wean them. I almost feel guilty encouraging you guys to like take heart during the winter and all that stuff, because I have my cheater garden. That's what my high tunnel feels like. Now that everything else is dead, I walk in here and I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm cheating at a game. I should have lost last night, but instead I have all this. Seriously though, I did learn that lesson in embracing the season over the last few years, and I really do still feel that way. And though I still have this garden in this beautiful growing space, it is a very different pace, and it is very different from my beautiful artistic front garden. I mean, it's still extremely beautiful though. Check this out. Can you even? Now, the high tunnel did freeze last night. You can see here, this was basil. This was basil, and it's gone. And actually, where there were lots of little volunteer tomatoes growing, like in the walkways, this one you can see is all mushy and brown. Most of the stuff out here is frost hardy, and that was my intention, because I knew that if it got below about 20, like low 20s, -5, -6 degrees Celsius, that it was going to freeze in here. I just did not anticipate that this could hold heat, and I was correct. Last night showed that. Now, there's one exception. This little volunteer walkway tomato lives on and looks really good, and I think it must be because it's growing so low and it's down here next to this black ground cover, so it held heat, and it actually is setting flowers. Look at that. And look, I mean, it looks fine, even though there was a freeze last night. All the rest of the volunteer tomato plants that were out here are pretty much dead, except for this one, and I'm gonna just leave it. Now, it's getting down close to freezing again tonight, not as cold as yesterday, and it's going to be cold over the next several days, so we'll just have to see what happens with this. I don't know if it got warm enough in here today to keep it through the night. I hope it does, though. I would be so tickled if somehow this little survivor tomato plant made it through the winter and produced fruit. We've been doing harvesting. Cut that head of broccoli off yesterday. Harvesting a lot of stuff. There's still so much food out here. And the other biggest development since you guys have seen this last was, as you can see, the peppers are cleared out, and I've started to plant other things. I started transplanting some things out. Over here, look at this big, beautiful bed ready to be filled up with food. Dying tomatoes, beautiful root vegetables. Here I've got some little cauliflower seedlings coming up. Unfortunately, my banana plant out here did not make it through last night, and I was a little worried that I did that by having it so close to the edge, but because of the fact that all the tomatoes that were spread throughout here, I don't know that it would have mattered had I had it in the middle. The winter garden and winter grown crops, like everything in here, it's so different from the summer garden. Even though I am thankful to still have this restful space, I was saying earlier that it's kind of different. It's so much more hands-off. Like, I don't have to come out here and do a lot. Like, at this point, what I do is harvest. We have had to set some traps out because we're having some rodent problems out here, and we have been able to trap some. But for the most part, like, I'm not having to prune. I'm not having to stake up tomatoes. Even the harvest, it doesn't come in massive waves, really. It's just I come out and harvest as we need things. And overall, as beautiful and amazing as this is, it is definitely a downshift in gears. And again, I'm embracing rest. And as I was out here yesterday putting plants in the ground and seeds in the ground in these beds, I shared something on my Instagram stories, and I wanted to share it here because I think it bears repeating, especially based on the feedback that I got on the Instagram stories. But, you know, I was out here and I have some started seeds and I had some packages of seeds, and it was time to plant this bed. This bed is 60 feet long. It's a big space. I can grow so much food in here. It's so exciting. It's freshly amended with a nice layer of compost. I'm so excited. But when it came to sow it, all of a sudden I was just completely crippled with this analysis paralysis and this feeling of, oh my gosh, maybe I should just do this later. Maybe I need to read some more. Maybe I need to do some more because I don't want to do it wrong. And honestly, I think that is so silly. And like, I don't want to do it wrong. I'm so scared I can't garden well. Like, I'm literally standing 2 feet away from the evidence that that is completely untrue. But this feeling of like, oh, is this too close? Is this too far? Is this going to grow well? Should I thin these out? Should I space these out? Are these even going to grow this time of year? Genuinely, this most ridiculously impairing thought process came over me. And I always want to turn around when that happens because I know how to overcome that in myself. I know how to be like, Jessica, like, look at the rest of your garden and you know, just put the seeds in the ground. If you need to thin them out later, you can thin them out later. If you need to move something later, you need to move something later. But just get the plants in the ground, just get the seeds in the ground, because you could be 8 to 12 weeks away from this happening over there. And somebody's gonna watch this video in 3 months and be like, look, aren't you so glad you just planted it? Like, I know that from experience. But if you don't have experience, if you don't have these beds sitting right next to you reminding you that it's gonna be okay, just plant the stuff, it is actually easy to talk yourself out of doing anything at all. And I've done that. There have been many seasons that I've gotten to the end of the fall season or the end of the summer season, and I've looked at big blank spaces in my garden and thought, I really wish I had just thrown some seeds in there because I would be harvesting food right now. And that's what I'm telling myself. I had to tell myself that on these empty spaces. And I just wanted to share that with you guys. That feeling of, doubt is, I think, normal in anything that we do. But overcoming that and knowing, hey, if I do nothing here, I'll get nothing. If I do something, I might get something. Your chances are just better at harvest when you plant something. Isn't that profound? But I wanted to share that with you. As basic as it seems to say, if I'm still dealing with doubts like that, I know that there are gardeners out there, new gardeners that are brand new, that are talking themselves out of doing anything because they think they might not be doing it right. And can I tell you that when I put these seeds in the ground and those seeds in the ground, that's enough kale to eat. We are going to be eating kale all winter, turnips all winter, rutabagas all winter. Look, there's some carrots sticking out of there. I remember I bought these cabbage starts and I had not sown them, and they got a little dry and crispy because I got too busy. And I was talking to Maya and I was like, I need to just go put them in the ground. And I hadn't put them in the ground yet because I hadn't gotten a chance to amend our beds yet. And I was stressing out and I thought, well, I bought all these starts and I haven't planted them because I need to get out there and amend the beds. And because I didn't have time to do it ideally, I wasn't doing it at all. Do you know that I planted these cabbages with the help of my son, Toby? The plants were crispy because I let them get too dry. The beds were not amended. After the fact, I came in and spread a little bit, I think it was worm castings. It was an organic fertilizer. I'm pretty sure it was worm castings that I put in here. And just kind of sprinkled them around the cabbage. I did not add a new layer of compost. I did not do anything. This is the mulch that was in here from this summer. And it was like, well, if I don't plant them, they're going to dry up. I will have wasted the money on the starts and we'll get nothing. But if I go ahead and stick them in the ground, maybe I'll get something. And turns out I got something. And all my cauliflower got eaten by rats. That stinks. And in the cases of, I think, every gardening year, you're going to win some and you're going to lose some. But again, if you don't plant anything, you're not going to win anything. You're not going to harvest anything. And I'm really glad that I went ahead and threw these half crispy cabbage starts into an unamended bed, because I'm going to enjoy some delicious fried cabbage with dinner tonight because of that decision. Hey girls. Hey beautiful girl. Oh, y'all got a goose friend, huh? Y'all want some cabbage leaves? You're bad, Magdalene. Alright. Alright, one for the goose. There you go. You can eat those outer cabbage leaves if you want to. but this is enough for us for dinner. And you can also use them to make some goats really happy. Some big old fat pregnant goats. Y'all making me some baby goats. Oh, there's the goose. He got his little nibble. I was about to sign off, and then I thought we'll go up here and say hello to my new goaty girls. They're all looking like a bunch of polar goats after the cold days their winter coats are in. They're so fluffy. I think it's the cutest thing. Hey, goats. Hello, goats. Where are you? Oh, hey, Reba. What's up, girl? Well, Reba has the deepest voice, and she like makes her little goaty sounds in the morning. And I'm like, there's Reba singing to us. Hey, it's the Grand Ole Opry. Hey, girl. Aren't they pretty? They're a little less standoffish now as the last time I showed them to you. You can see I got the mamas putting on some weight. They're looking really good. These babies are only like 6 weeks old. They're big boys. The little girl's a lot smaller. But I have not milked these girls yet. I didn't want to pull the babies whenever we were, you know, doing all the rush of Thanksgiving. And then it was so cold last night I didn't. I think I'm going to wait, not do it tonight. But tomorrow night I'm going to isolate the baby so we can start working on the milk stand with Reba and Shania in the morning. Hey, beautiful. Hey, beautiful girls. They'll be isolated from the rest of the herd for probably a few more weeks. Nope, I think they're over me. But they're so pretty. And on that note, the goat note, I will say goodnight to you guys. Thank you for hanging out with me this evening. I bless you. Until next time.